Hello, everybody. My name is Andrzej Winnicki, and I work as a software engineer in Allegro. And today I would like to share with you a story about the choices. In IT, when we develop new products or new solutions, very often we need to make choices. Which features are more important and which are less. And today I would like to tell you how in our team, in Allegro, we managed to make these choices easier. It is a story about how we built a minimum viable product with the walking skeleton and the story mapping. I'm sure it will be inspirational for you. It all started this year in Poznań. We were discussing the immediate future of our team and our product, a division of Allegro Group responsible for managing shipment orders. We had received some great news. Our managing director came to us and said that we are about to sign a contract with one of the biggest ERP producers in Poland. And our goal was to integrate our platform with their system so that we can significantly increase the number of orders in our service. It was a big deal for us. We had been working with old legacy platform, and it was tough. No more than 4 weeks before that meeting, we had been struggling with some major performance issues. We even started moving small parts of our application to new, more reliable architecture. This upcoming integration was a chance for us to speed things up. We even roughly estimated that the work needed to rebuild our system would take 2 years. But our managing director had one more news for us. He said that, yes, we need new system. No, we don't have 2 years. We have 5 months. And our reaction was something like this. Why 5 months? And the deadline was set because our ERP partner was working in a waterfall model. They had 2 release dates, one in June, one in December. And because of high-level business developments, the date in June was a must-have for us. Leaving the legacy system was not an option for us. So we had 5 months to deliver the work that was previously estimated to take 2 years. And this sounds like a quite common problem in IT. Short deadline versus wide scope. We needed a solution to deliver the value to our customers, but at the same time finish the development process before the deadline. So we decided to create an MVP, a minimum viable product, and deliver it to our customers. In the internet, you can find tons of publication about what MVP is. So I don't want to discuss here the term in detail. Instead, I want to tell you what we saw in MVP. MVP was a product which was minimal, but still had a high value to our customers, which had good quality, and it wasn't a throwaway product. We started wondering, how could we build one? How could we define the minimum set of features that was essential to our users and to the final product? Then we heard about the idea of using the walking skeleton and the story mapping. In short, story mapping is a framework that helps people to organize and prioritize the user stories. It uses an alternative visual representation of user story backlog. In story mapping, the backlog is represented as a map. On the top of the map, you can see how the user activity flows in system. Then, in each column, you have the prioritized user stories, which are part of a particular stage of a flow. When you have these priorities in each column, you can see that the stories placed high on the map represent the smallest possible representation of working end-to-end system. This is what Alistair Coburn refers to as the walking skeleton. It's a tiny implementation of a system that performs a small end-to-end function. And that's it. A quite simple idea, isn't it? We liked simple solutions, so we decided to give it a try. Now, one disclaimer. I don't want to give you a lecture called what is the only proper way to execute the story mapping. Instead, I want to show you our team recipe. I want to show you how we cooked our MVP. I like the metaphor of cooking because I think it fits here very well. I understand recipes as something that gives you the foundation, some head start. But still, you can always experiment, add your own spices, and make the dish unique. And to be honest, when I cook, I never follow recipes to the letter. But I still think that I am a quite good cook. My wife is here in the audience, and you can ask her. So let's start. This is our team recipe for nice, tasty, spicy story mapping. First, because rebuilding our system was a big deal for us, we thought that our MVP should be transparent to everyone interested in the project. So as a first step, we have gathered all the people involved in the product development, the team, the product owner, stakeholders, and even the Scrum moms. Then we started the simplest thing. We started talking. All together, we identified the main user activity in our product, delivering a parcel from an ERP customer to the end user. We thought about this activity as a scenario which defines how user interacts with our product. And we called it the main business process. In the next step, we have divided the process into big chunks. As a general rule, I would say that in this step, you need to imagine that you need to explain to someone how the process looks like. What are the really big stories that must be completed to finish the process. These big stories are the stages of a process. So we define those stages, put their names on large, colorful sticky notes, and put the stickies on the whiteboard from left to right, just how the user activity flows. Next, we divided each stage, the really big story, into a list of smaller stories. We conducted something like a brainstorming session. We look at the first stage, and we took smaller sticky notes, wrote down each feature that would be part of this particular stage of a process, and we put all these sticky notes on the board below the stage name. At the end of this step, we had compiled, and this is important, unprioritized list of features similar to stories on the whiteboard. Then we started to prioritize the stories according to their outcome. We looked at the whiteboard, and for every story in each stage, we thought about a few things. How important is the story to finishing the process? How much value will the story bring to the final customers? What are the risks behind the stories? And so on and so on. And as a result, we started moving stories on the whiteboard. At the end of this step, we had the stories with high priority on the top of the map and the stories with low priority at the bottom. We had our map prioritized. And the first step of our map was the walking skeleton. But still, we needed to define which essential stories from the top are our actual MVP. We had to draw a line somewhere and separate the must-have and the nice-to-have. Natalia, our product owner, grabbed the marker and drew a line on the whiteboard so that the stories with high priority, our stories that were our MVP, were above the line and the rest was below the line. Yay! Our MVP was ready, but we still had our deadline in 5 months. We needed some kind of estimation. We needed to know how big our MVP is. We decided to roughly estimate all the stories included in our MVP. As our estimation method, we picked some variation of magic estimation and planning poker. We estimated that the whole MVP would take more or less 120 points. It was important for us because it meant that not all of the stories included in the first version of MVP could have been done in June. We needed to move our MVP line, cut our MVP a bit more, and remove some stories and make some stories thinner. In the next step, Natalia had to transform our map of stories to the project roadmap. She started taking stories from the top rows and putting them into successive sprints. The idea was to focus on the entire process, not on the particular stage. Always go right, not down. This is how we are able to build our product incrementally. As a result, we had a very nice thing, rough plan of our work for next few sprints. And from that point of time, we were able to start the actual development. So that's it. This is how we cooked our MVP, the entire truth. Okay, forget, I'm lying to you. There were tons of tiny details, sometimes failures, business development, and other stuff that eventually shaped our work. But talking about all of them in this talk would be impossible. But I will be more than happy to talk with you and answer your questions after the presentation. However, I still want to tell you one more thing. Whenever I try a new recipe from the internet, I don't only look in the article, I look also in the comments section, because very often there lies the secret ingredient. Add more flour, bake the cake for 10 more minutes, or use less salt because the author of the recipe is some fetish salt lover. These tiny little things are sometimes essential to making the dish better. This knowledge makes the difference between the cake you see on the left and the cake you see on the right. So let's discuss a few tiny little things that we have learned during our project and that may be helpful for you. First of all, always focus on the outcome and the value for the customer. Cut out what is non-essential, but don't go too far. Minimalism is not a goal in and of itself. Do not underestimate things labeled to be done later. Our biggest issue was that we identified them, but we didn't trace them. And we learned that if you can't manage them, they will become real toxic real soon. Make sure that your product is testable. This is the whole damn idea of having the walking skeleton. We have created automated tests for each new option added to our APIs. Without testing, we would be afraid of making any changes, whereas the change is one of the pillars of MVP and the walking skeleton. Last but not least, do not feel overwhelmed by the initial effort. MVP required from us a lot of work, a lot of meetings, estimating, but I firmly believe that there is nothing for free in this world. You must give something to get something in return. So we gave our engagement at the beginning and received a good product in return. At the very end of this presentation, let me get back to our story. It's the end of June. Our ERP partner has released new version of his product. It took them 36 hours to fully deploy the product. Thankfully, in our case, it wasn't that hard. We had been building our product incrementally and released it after almost every sprint. There was no final release date. It was just another day. And you may wonder why I'm showing you this particular picture. Actually, it's Paris. It's a view from the Eiffel Tower. And I'm showing you it because, to be honest, on the release weekend, I wasn't even in Warsaw. I was in Paris with my beloved wife, and I think it's great because we have put a lot of effort into making this MVP successful. A lot of great people work on this. And I am very, very proud that eventually we created a product that didn't need any special care. We created a product that was useful to the end users, which had good quality, and we did it in a limited amount of time. I don't know how could we done it without the MVP. Maybe we wouldn't complete the project at all, or maybe we would finish the project, but we would be lucky. We would be exhausted, doing a lot of overtime, stressed out, not happy, but frustrated. And at the very end, let me ask you one question. Do we really, in our projects, want to rely on being lucky? Do we really want to breathe a sigh of relief after deployment of each our project? I doubt that. That will be all. If you are interested in story mapping or planning in general, please refer to these books. The one on the left is new and the one on the right is classic. You can reach me on Twitter. You can also visit my startup website, knapps.com, where we create very useful tools for discovering and organizing priorities. And thank you all for coming. It was a great pleasure to speak here, and I am looking forward to talk to you after the presentation.